Right, Renton here, head judge for the Shanghai Olympic qualifier. Got some reflections on the judging to give you an idea of what the judges were thinking when they were scoring it, and perhaps give you a little bit of an insight. I'm going to preface it with just to remind everyone, just like the level of this event is the best in the world. It really is. We're leading into the Olympics. The first time we've got an Olympics with a full proper crowd. It's the second Olympics that we've done, so the federations are more organised. The first series of events for the first qualifying for the Olympics were a bit broken due to COVID. This really is the first time that we've had this whole system set up. The federations have had enough practice doing everything now that all their systems are in place. Their teams are well underway of getting really, really good, and really skateboarding is more competitive than it's ever been in competition. The depth is through the roof. We have so many good skaters. It is really, really competitive. And we're talking about the best skateboarding competitions in the world. So I think that shouldn't be lost on the people in the competition. Sometimes it's easy when you're at an event to look around and see the other people that you know in the event and be like, I know this 45 people and, it's just us. But it really is the best skateboarders in the world. I know for myself, like looking back at the replay, it's hard to watch some of the people's responses when they get their scores because they've been working so hard and only a certain amount of people can make it through to the next round. It is super ridiculously competitive and everyone's been devoting their entire life to making it through to the next phase, but unfortunately it is a limited amount of people that go through to the semi-finals, through to the finals, and then on to the Olympics. Next event is going to be even more competitive, the last event to get into the Olympics, and I think it's really important just for everybody involved to realise they're at the pinnacle of the sport. They're the leaders of the sport, and yeah, they're leading the whole sport of skateboarding when it comes to competition. So I really take my hat off to everybody. The skating that's going down is so ridiculously gnarly and good. For myself and the judges, we're definitely very privileged to be in the position that we are, and we certainly don't take it for granted, and we do as much as we can to make sure that we give you the most just results because we know everybody is going so hard at these events. To the judges, one of the things that was really making people stand out were people that were not holding back, that were giving it their all, and people that weren't losing speed and just feeling that 45 seconds just full of radness. Other things that are very, very obvious: kick turns, not advisable at the highest level of competition. Rolling over the jump box rather than olling it, or even a manual is better than just rolling over it. But I think when we get into this level of competition, we don't want to really be seeing too many people rolling over it. Ignoring obstacles, doing too many basics. And then finally, when it got really, really competitive at this competition, one of the things it came down to was people that actually finished their run like properly, that didn't just phone it in, that did a trick, that finished with a trick rather than just cruising around just to beat the buzzer and finish the time. The judges are judging ridiculously competitive runs, so all of these things they're really looking out for. Okay, got a bit of a course rundown for the course that we had at the Shanghai Olympic Qualifying Series Park event. This skate park, it seemed to be a little bit hard at times to get speed. So the judges were definitely looking at that. That could definitely be a bit of kryptonite to some skaters midway through their run, starting to slow down. Obviously, the skaters don't have a lot of time to figure this skate park out. So, yeah, it's not the easiest thing in the world. Jump into a park as crazy as this and start shredding it, keeping your speed throughout the whole run with only a few days practice. So we're rewarding the skaters who could keep their speed throughout the whole run. So the judges were really looking to find a seamless run, linking together as many of the obstacles as possible, the hardest possible tricks, with consistency throughout the entire run, and of course with the best possible execution. The men's prelims, just a few words about just a few of the performances and maybe just an insight into what we were thinking. This is the most insane skating, but my job is a judge, so I need to be critical. I'm going to give you the positives and the negatives that we saw, just a few bits and pieces here and there. So Chen Yi from China, switch lip slide up the extension and using the park switch. It's an innovative approach to skating. In the past, seen people do a switch trick here or there or whatever, but to sort of link together a few obstacles, that's something that I've noticed that's going in a direction that skateboarding hasn't really been in before, where someone can skate through the park with power switch, hitting obstacles. So that looks like it's heading in that direction. That was good. So it's good to see the old dudes, Dallas, showing up, skating with the younger crew. Andy Mack really killed it. That was a really good run from Andy with 2 nollie heel flips. Rune, heel flip frontside is always great to see. It's been inspirational to watch the older guys mix it up and skate with the kids. Omar Kochalova, great approach, very different, creative. Eddie Damastoy, this was a very, very notable run. Skated very, very well, but didn't complete a run. Had some great big moves, such as the rodeo, the Indy 540 over the waterfall, and all of his filler tricks were really quite good, and he used all of the park. It just bailed at the end, but that was a really good run. It just lacked the final trick. Yan Bahar, great skating, full run, lots of tricks. Kickflip frontside air, frontside flip melon, the alley-oops. Just probably didn't quite have the speed and flow as other people that beat him, but an amazing run, and it was very, very competitive again. Tyler from Germany skated really, really fast, hit all the obstacles. At the time when Tyler skated in the competition, a lot of the skaters were just staying on and maybe not giving it as much gas as what they potentially could, which is fair enough. You want to stay on your board. But Tyler really didn't hold back and really gave it all. And so when someone comes out and just skates like that, it gets the judges' attention. Elias Nielsen skated great. Kiko Francisco always skates very well. Lots and lots of tricks back to back. Again, just unfortunately, we're just in a position where we have so many. It's just so competitive. The field is very, very competitive. Again, same with Vincent Matheron. Creative tricks, the use of the spine, made run. It was great. Same with Murillo, skating at full speed, heel flip Indy, good style, great lip tricks. So the two skaters that just missed the cut and just made it in, I'll just quick comparison. So Alex Sorgente in 16th place. It's such a creative way to skate the park. Number one, the judges are always looking for someone standing out. So when you skate the park differently, it gets the judges' attention. It's not the only thing you have to do. Obviously, you can skate the skate park differently in a way that wasn't very good, but Alex definitely skates it in a way that is creative. So he Smith grinded the rainbow, and then he also did the crooked grinder fakie up the hip and then up into the pocket. So that was in pretty quick succession. Two tricks that were pretty much the best tricks on the obstacles that he did them on, or thereabouts the best tricks. So that was straight off the bat. The cable he did was a bit sketchy, a little bit of a sketchy ollie, but he just done two best tricks done on two different obstacles. Don't want to hold someone to, just say that's a little bit bad, but no, this is all amazing. There's a little bit of filler in there, body jar, backside air, frontside grind, but coming back with some pretty creative stuff, the crooked grind transfer on the spine, backside nose blunt, and then his line was quite an interesting line. I don't think I saw too many people else do it, and that was backside 50-50 on the small side of the spine, off over the hip into the bolt. Thought that was a very creative line. And then ended with a feeble grind and fakie nose grind. Great run. So the person that he just bumped out of the cut was Hampus. Hampus has been skating very well. I'm being super critical here just for the sake of I'm a judge and hopefully everyone can get something from this. Obviously this was a really, really good run, but if I break it down, perhaps there's something to be learned a little bit from it and the way that we are doing this. So in Hampus's run, he started out with a bone air transfer, which was top of the top notch. The way he did it was a great bone, landed high. But in very quick succession, straight after it, was a very similar frontside air on the spine. We are definitely looking for repetition. That's one of the things that we would be looking at to score people down. Hampus also did a couple of backside airs. And then he also did a kickflip body varial as well as a normal body varial. So they're two really similar tricks, but given the fact that there's some other repeating stuff, it just enhances the repetition. There's also a couple of frontside grinds. The nose grind on the rail was great. That was really, really good. I think that was one of the better tricks on that rail. But really, I think, if we were going to look at something that was not the most positive thing for Hampus and his quest to make the cut, it would have been the repetition, just because there was a few tricks repeated and then there was some tricks in there that were very similar to others. But a great run from Hampus. Again, only a certain amount of people can make the top 16. It is the competition where we're getting the top 16 in the world, and it's just unfortunate that at this stage that you're going to have so many amazing skaters make so much rad stuff, and to make the cut, you really got to be just ticking every box of the criteria, having your run from start to finish, high difficulty of tricks, variety of tricks, good execution, consistency throughout your run. You just have to get as much of that criteria down as possible. Okay, so men's semis. In 16th place we had Euro Nagahara. Looked like a great run, making great use of the park, linked the transfer line and the rainbow rail together. Look forward to seeing you in Budapest. Pedro Carvalho, been skating great lately, just didn't make this run. It was interesting to see the tray flip roast beef to mute grab. That was an interesting one. I assume it was just a comp make, wasn't on purpose, but cool to see, rad skating anyway. So in 13th place we had Pedro Quintas. Looking at this through an extremely critical lens, being that we're comparing it to the best skaters in the world. Seemed to lose a little bit of speed on the kickflip varial Indy. Kickflip Indy on the box was very good. Nollie heel flip frontside air is an original trick for Park. I don't think we're really seeing too many other people do it. Hurricane's also a really good trick to be putting in there with filler. Not a lot of other people doing it, so there's some originality and some creativity. It was a very solid run, but again, it was just a very competitive round with a lot of skaters making a lot of great stuff. And what will, in fact, shed a bit of light on that and be a testament to the fact that this was a very competitive round was our next skater in 12th place was Kiefer Wilson. Very similar run to the run that he'd done in the previous round, where he'd qualified in first, and the same run on paper. He slipped down quite a few places. A lot to do with two things. Number one, the way that other people skated. Everyone else lifted their game. And then the other thing is Kiefer's execution. It wasn't the same in this round than the previous. When the judges saw this run a second time round against everyone else just really putting the heat on, the run did seem to lack a bit of consistency, and that's how much of a certain level of application that you have in your run. So Kiefer had the kickflip frontsider at the start, very, very strong. Kickflip Indian to kickflip frontsider, very, very strong. But then it backed off a bit, which affected Kiefer's score. So 11th place, Alain Courbatard. Great run, intensity and use of the park. Really a lot of consistency from start to finish. I'm using that word quite a lot, consistency. It's really how much stuff you have in your run. At the start of the run, had the Sean Penn. It was a passable Sean Penn. So I'll just take a second as far as like when you're taking your foot off on tricks, judo airs, frigid airs, Madonnas, stuff like that, just to let particularly some of the younger skaters know. If you are going to take your foot off, take it off properly, make the trick look good. But it was a great run. This run had intensity from start to finish. I don't want to get away from that this being absolutely like a great run. The jump box to bowl Indy was great. Seldom done liner. A few people did this line, linked together with some other tricks. Crooked grind on the block was great. So it was an obstacle that not everyone was hitting, and it was a trick that no one else was doing. So that's going to get the judges' attention. Anytime you hit an obstacle with a better trick than everyone else, or a trick that everyone else isn't doing, you're going to get the judges' attention. Well done, Alain. 11th place. That was pretty rad. In 9th place, we had Tom Shah. Great run. Big airs. Alley-oop backside lip slide was alley-oop back lip was great. On the critical side, there was a lot of carving and no use of the extra obstacles. This affected his use of the park criteria and consistency. It's a great run. I mean, all of this stuff, if I'm being critical about anything that I've said, it's basically because I'm having to make a critique against the best skaters in the world compared to the best skaters in the world. All of this is amazing skateboarding, clearly. Backside 360 tail grab was great, as was the switch back D. Tail grab 5 on the midsection was really, really good too. Nice and big. Unfortunately, at this level of competition, we're going to see some great skateboarding from amazing skaters, and they won't advance. In 8th place, we had Gavin Botka. Starting out, big frontside air, full speed was great. The nose grind on the rail was great, out of a 540. Great mix of street and vert tricks. Anytime that you're able to see a trick on a rail or a block next to a McTwist, you're contrasting two different styles of skating. It's just cool to see skateboarding presented in different ways, and to be able to put contrasting things next to each other, and that was just cool. Gavin's a great park skater. And the 50-50 on the midsection, traveling the whole thing, that was also great use of the park. The only person that did anything like that. So Gavin was rewarded for that. In 7th place, Kieran Woolley. If you count the tricks, Kieran generally gets more tricks in his run than any other skater. This run was the same. Didn't carve it all, but linked together all the obstacles with different tricks. Made great use of the park and had a great variety of tricks. Smith on the rainbow was great. I think him and Alex were the only skaters that did that. It probably, I think, the hardest trick that anyone made. Again, with Alex, it was super, super strong trick. Good stuff, Kieran. In 6th place, we had Jagger Eaton. The judges appreciate no-handed flips. Obviously, very, very hard to do when you flip your board without grabbing. So the judges are appreciating it. So in 5th place, Augusto Accio, nice variety of tricks and some creativity, a lot of difficulty. Nose grind through the corner was great, nice and on top. Frontside 1 foot lip slide was creative. Mute 540 over the hip was different as well. Again, just to reiterate, anytime you're doing tricks that are different to other people, the judges are going to pay attention. If you do exactly what everyone else does, it's hard for the judges to get psyched if they're just seeing the stuff that's being repeated. So anytime you're seeing judges are seeing different stuff, especially if it's difficult and it's fulfilling the criteria, then it gets their attention and it can bump up the score. Switch lip slide to backside Smith revert. Again, just going back to what I just said, tricks that no one's doing linked together and with a bunch of other tricks that no one else is doing. So all very original, rad skating, Augusto. So 4th place, Pedro. Great run. So to go into a little bit of detail, lots of power, as always. Lots of power, skated with speed. The Rainbow 5-0. It's great how he was leaning into it, like not just directly being like on top, he's leaning into it. If he happened to put his wheels on the platform, he would have copped a quick death. So a bit risky. It just meant he's leaning into the 5-0. It was good touch. Melon 540, good trick. Wasn't the cleanest. The Stale 540, another good one. Good position in the air, but it squatted. Judges, again, are looking at all the details of how you land. Yeah, we have to be critical of everything. When we're looking at the 44 best skaters in the world, we're looking at everything. There was some repetition in there as well. So over the mid-hip, there was 2 sort of hover ollies over the same hip. So again, we're just sort of taking a critical lens to the best skaters in the world. It's all amazing skating. It's just we're comparing this to the raddest skaters. 3rd place. So we had Luigi Cini. Great run. Quite a complete run. So it landed low on the tail grab over the hip and lost a bit of speed. Kickflip Melon. Great flip grab. I think harder than a kickflip Indy. He does it very, very well. Indy grab on the front side 50-50. It was probably better to just ollie in, but it's just also better to land your stuff. So just being super hypercritical. Front side lip slide to sugarcane, creative. It was just a little bit of an extra added touch. Judges like something. It's like if someone brings something new, it's like, ooh, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like it just adds something different. We're sitting there watching skateboarding for days. We love it. And we will continue to do it. We're quite happy to be there, sit there for hours and hours on end and watch it. But if you want us to get to sit up, adding tricks like that is definitely cool. Tray flip stale is great. It's a new flip trick grab. We're 25 years into seeing flip grabs. I think, like since like 1992, or I'm pretty bad at maths, maybe that's longer. And to bring new ones is cool, especially in a competition. Especially if it seems to be that you're the only person that we've seen done it. So it's a trick that seems to be Luigi's, and it seems to be a trick that is pretty difficult, and it's original, and it's good to see in a competition run when people are doing different stuff like that. 2nd place, Take Karoo. Nice, solid, complete run, well thought out with a lot of consistency. Starter tail was rad. Big, little bit of a sketch in there though. Transfer crossbone is also good. The frontside blunt slide, that was top notch. Kickflip Indy to over the box, the heel flip Indy to the rainbow showed consistency and difficulty. 2nd place, well done Tate. So Keegan in 1st place. I'll go through his first run. I think he might have been surprised at his score. At these events, we're scoring everybody compared to how everyone else has skated. You can get different scores on different days based on how other people skate as well. We don't have like a point value. It's not like, you did a 540, there's 15 points. You did a kickflip mute, there's 7 points. you get the score at the end to put you in the ranking order that you deserve. So if your run was the third best run, then you'll get a score that correlates with being underneath second and above fourth. A key part of everything, of people that made runs and maybe didn't get the scores that they thought they would get, was the fact that this was an incredibly competitive round. The judges have to be completely fair to everybody and give them the scores correlating with the ranking that they should be. The judges are judging what's done in front of them and only evaluating what they see in the allotted time. So, the maid run. This was cool. So, starting out, kickflip frontside air, juggled the board and still made it. So, flipping that gap was gnarly. And juggling the board, it's not desirable, but he still landed high and managed to pump out of it. I think I saw someone mention on social media, like, do you get scored more when you juggle the board or an imperfect kickflip? I think each one would be appraised on its own situation. It's exciting, that's for sure. It's cool. It's like, hey, well, yeah. In this case, Keegan still landed it cleanly and he landed with speed and he pumped out of it. I think what was different about this to other times when you see people juggle a board is it seemed to energize Keegan. It seemed to be a sort of a situation that what doesn't kill you will make you stronger. It seemed to just energize him and he really went for it after that. There was some electricity. So straight after that, the 540 was boosted and he pumped out of it. It was like edge of your seat sort of stuff. I think there's a difference if someone juggles a board, lands it, sketches, and then is very careful after that, and just like, or just really loses some momentum, loses flow, holds back, or there's some consistency. This seemed to do the opposite for Keegan. He landed it wrong, and it seemed to be like, well, if I can land that, I'm going to go mental. There was some seriously rad stuff in there. So Indy 540 to backs at lip slide was a great combo. The lean melon had some great form. Eggplant revert was good too, original. Ended with a few basics. The consistency went down a little bit, but all in all a great run. The use of the park, he hit gaps that nobody else did. The technicality of the tricks, some very hard ones in there, as well as combos. Variety of tricks, flip tricks, spins, lip tricks, obstacle tricks, all there. Consistency, he came out swinging and had some hard combos. Ended with a few easy ones, but was still a great run. Regarding execution, even when he sketched on the fronts there, he managed to pump out of it. He was hammering throughout the whole run. There was a commitment to showing us non-stop radness. It was great. Even the basic trick in there, the lean melon, was presented really, really well. The judges are asked to judge him partially without bias. I think they showed that here. Keegan shone on his last run and he deserved to qualify first, so well done. Good stuff. So we're going to start with the men's final. In 8th place, we had Luigi Cini. Had a bit of an unlucky day. I guess he had one of those days, just didn't stay on. In 6th place, we had Gavin Bopka. Gavin had a great combination of using different parts of the park and a mixture of vert and street type tricks. Essentially very park style sort of skating. Get into some of his tricks. Oh, just to note too, just watching it back, just seeing the carve line into the nose grab 360, I was very impressed just with how much power he had out of it, which is a very small detail, but it was just something that as a skate nerd I just sort of picked up and I was like, wow, that's some power, that's pretty cool. In 5th place we had Pedro, great run, stay on run, his highest scoring run. From what I could tell, he possibly had a better run coming. Also, rather than going for a better run on his second run, he could have cleaned up that first run and gotten a better score. Often see that in skaters skating these events. They'll make a run and it may not have the best execution, and then a skater will go back and just try and add more tricks when actually the run that they've done could have been cleaned up and done a bit better. So with this, like, maybe it sounds like I'm focusing on negatives, but it just basically, in that instance where Pedro could have made that run a bit better, we rewarded him for speed, rewarded him for some height. As always, Pedro great at that. But I don't think that really showcased Pedro at his sort of best for his airs. On the 540, there was some squatting, which is not optimal. Judges are looking for every small thing. So if you don't have the best execution, the judges are definitely going to see it, and it's going to affect your score, particularly when it's a close game. Pedro Smith grinds were long. Judges love it when someone does a long grind. If someone grinds aren't long, we noticed. If they are long, we noticed. Varial flip Indy, that was good. Alley-oop was great. It was Pedro was the only person taking that line in the final. It's one thing to do a trick that no one's doing, but to do a line that nobody is doing, it really does get the judges' attention. While it was rewarded, it could have been rewarded more if it had been cleaner and landed in the bowl section rather than landing lower and not quite going the full distance. I think other people doing that gap in other parts of the competition at various points were landing much higher into the bowl. I think that was the goal, was to land high into the bowl, and it was just kind of a comp make. He kind of just pulled out and still made it. Great move, but execution wasn't as good. So the bit that really sort of affected Pedro's score was the end of his run. So with these competitions, we're looking for consistency, which means like the amount of stuff that you have from start to finish. So while when you get to the end of the run, if you chill out, it makes it a lot easier for you to complete your run. It also might affect your score if you go a little bit basic. We want to see people be strong throughout their entire run. Pedro's run ended with a few basics. After the alley-oop, he did a frontside grind in the deep, backside ollie over the hip, and a rock slide to fake on the midsection. I think we can all agree it's not the hardest tricks done in the competition, not the hardest tricks that Pedro can do. The skaters that beat him, for example, Kieran, 5.0, 180 out on the block into a switch eggplant. Great line. And the other skaters did end quite strongly. I dare say if he made his next run, it would have been better and in contention for a higher position. Next skater, we had Kieran Woolley. To me, this was the closest call in the competition between Kieran and Jagger. Kieran had great use of the park, great consistency, creativity with the end of his line, switch eggplant. I don't know if I've ever seen that trick before. Very consistent throughout the entire run. Kieran does more tricks in his run than anyone. I did count his tricks compared to other people just in different competitions and different phases of this one, and he definitely does a lot more tricks than anyone. He doesn't really carve too much. His lines are great. It was a really, really good run, and ending with a switch egg, that was really good. Unfortunately though, the hand wasn't quite on coping on the switch egg, but super original and a great line, frontside 5.0, 180 out, an old school trick, innovated and taken to the park. So it was a good combination. It was very, very good. He linked together a lot of tricks and had a great line throughout the park. Really close to Jagger. On the score sheet, it was more than a point, but I think it was closer than a point that doesn't really explain how close it was, and that has to do with the scale. Sometimes you can be a few decimals away from someone and really not be that close, or sometimes you can be a point or two away and actually be close. It depends on the scale that is being used on the day. So Jagger in third place, Keegan Palmer with second place. He ended up making a better run. I think we had a query as why that run scored better than his main run the day before. And that reason is two reasons. Number one, because it was such a good run, it fulfilled all the criteria except for consistency. And number two, on different days, we generally have different scales. A run score on one day cannot be compared to another run score on a different day. We have different scales. As I said before, we've gone into that in different World Skate videos. So Tate, congratulations. I think perhaps the only skater that's made the final in every single World Skate event. Been great to see that journey, to see you finally win. So to go into Tate's run, started with a Stalefish tail slap. It was really, really big, it was stretched, and he went tail every single time. Obviously we're only judging one run, but it's one thing to slap your tail when you just happen to be in the right position and you just do it opportunistically, but to do it absolutely every single time when you're going that big and tweaking the board means that you're doing that trick absolutely perfect every single time. Impressive. It was big. Crossbone transfer over the box was a line that few other people did. It's a nice classic trick on a lesser taken path. Judges like anything that not many people are doing. It makes them stand out. If you're doing things that everyone else is doing, it's easy to get lost in the mix. So taking a new line, showing a trick better than other people, it's all going to be great. So crossbone transfer over the box. And then as well with Tate, like anytime you do back lips over the hips or nice frontside nose grinds as filler, it's always going to be better than a 50-50 or a 5-0. And Tate made them pleasant to watch, kept his speed, all really, really good. The body varial 540 to the body varial flip indie over the hip was a quick two-piece. The last combo at the end was consistently difficult and used a lot of the park. Kickflip indie over the jump box is not the hardest trick, but Tate executed it really, really well with a great catch, grabbing tuck knee. It looked really, really good. I think what really accentuated the goodness of that trick was straight into a heel flip indie in the deep end. At a kickflip indie, Tate's execution was top notch on the heel flip indie, straight into the 50-50 over the rainbow and into a tail grab 540 for a strong finish. It just meant that his attention to detail, getting all of that stuff right to the point where each trick coming up was done just as well, keeping speed, and the difficulty of the tricks continued to be very strong. He kept composure throughout his whole run, start to finish, no repeats. It was great. Pound for pound, when we measured the runs, in comparison, Tate had it. Use of the park, difficulty of tricks, variety of tricks, consistency, execution, repetition, all done well. I think Tate is more consistent than everyone else. His execution and keeping speed from start to finish were also ahead of everyone else. Had a strong ending of his run, which was really a difference between a lot of other people. It's just, if you get like 80% of your run done and then you cruise the last bit, it's a great thing to do to sort of guarantee that you finish your run. But if you do that, it means that someone like Tate, that is just going to go all the way to the end of his run, he may well come in ahead of you just because he doesn't back off. It's like it's just tricks to the end. It's not being safe, you know, when you complete your whole run, tricks all the way to the end. And I think, you know, when I'm explaining placings for this competition, a lot of the people that did well versus the people that weren't happy with how they went or didn't reach their goals, that could be it, that they didn't actually come so strong and finish with tricks at the end. If you finish with basics, it's going to affect your run. With this run, I encourage judges to thoroughly compare and cross-reference all the judging criteria met in both Keegan's and Tate's runs performances before their judging verdict. At the end of the process, Tate came out as the one with the better rated performance. Well done, Tate. See you in Budapest. Yes.